Hi, I am Makiza Latifa. Welcome to the show. Today we are switching things up a bit, so let's begin with Threshold with Lisa, where you get all updates on state-of-the-art technological innovations, as well as scientific discoveries happening in today's China. The long list of topics today includes excerpts of the China 2024 Humanoid Robotics Conference and the unending competition between China and the United States in the tech industry. With that said, get ready for an interesting conversation about artificial intelligence, robotics, and many more. Here's Lisa Pan with all you need to know.
Hi, this is Threshold in China. I'm Lisa, and today we are at the China 2024 Humanoid Robotics Conference. Just like computers, smartphones, and electric cars, we are again witnessing another technological revolution. The first full-sized humanoid robot, Wabot 1, was created by Waseda University in Japan in 1972. With years of development within the industry, China has emerged as a prominent player in the field, taking the lead in bringing this technology out of the lab and into commercial reality. Domestic companies and academic powerhouses have driven a patent explosion. As of 2023, China has received over 6,600 patent applications and has been granted more than 3,100 patents in the field of humanoid robots. The competition is fierce between China and the United States. In China, the rapid growth of the industry is not only fueled by private companies, but also with strong government support. Last October, the Chinese Ministry of Industry and Information Technology released a roadmap for humanoid robotic development. It aims to establish itself as a global leader by 2025. With all that said, let's take a look inside. In China's dynamic robotic landscape, young companies are making waves with their innovative creations. One such company is Unitree, established in 2016, which has gained global recognition for pushing the boundaries of electric-powered humanoid robots. Unitree's flagship creation is the H1 robot, a full-sized humanoid standing 180 centimeters tall and weighing only 47 kilograms. In the world's first feat, Unitree's H1 demonstrated the ability of a full-sized electric humanoid to perform a perfectly executed backflip and land on its feet, showcasing exceptional posture control according to experts. While backflips by robots have been demonstrated before, such as Boston's Dynamic Atlas in 2017, Unitree's H1 stands out because it is only powered by electric motors. Electric motors have better force feedback and more precise control compared to the hydraulic systems used in Atlas. Although hydraulic drives offer more powerful output, they tend to cost more and are heavier, and also require precise construction, which makes them less suitable for commercial applications.
First, we believe the humanoid robot industry may evolve similar to the automotive industry, with each manufacturer focusing on their specific strengths. Going into too much detail on aspects like vision or limb movements gets very complex. So Unitree is focused on the core body and mobility, being able to effectively climb stairs, run, do backflips, and so on based on physical capabilities. That's what we've always wanted to prioritize. In terms of mobility, wheeled robots have an advantage over tracked robots, which have an advantage over quadrupeds, since terrain isn't as much of a limitation. And humanoids are the next step beyond quadrupeds. A key benefit of humanoids, also called general-purpose robots, is their versatility. Unlike a sweep robot which can only vacuum, you can hand a humanoid a broom to sweep, or a wrench to turn screws. They can operate in human environments without the need for major modifications.
Naeturi is using NVIDIA's powerful simulation platforms to continuously enhance the capabilities of H1 robots through self-learning AI models. As China doubled down on AI and robotics, startups like Naeturi play a crucial role in driving innovation in this critical field. AGI Bot, based in Shanghai and led by engineer Peng Zhihui, has secured over $600 million in funding to develop intelligent humanoid robots for manufacturing and service roles. Naeturi Robot collaborates with Huawei to explore commercial applications by integrating the open-source Harmony system. Kepler humanoid robots debuted at the 2024 CES show attracted wide attention. China's ecosystem covers the full spectrum, from pioneering research labs to component manufacturers to system integrators. Although the market is still in its early stages, it is growing rapidly. The China Electronics Society has also forecast that the market size of humanoid robots in China is expected to reach about 870 billion yuan. That is roughly about $119 billion by 2030. So, where exactly can we see these human-like robots being used today? Currently, humanoid robots are being deployed in industrial settings such as factories and power plants. However, experts anticipate that over time they will find wider applications in homes and service industries.
We'll also work towards industrial use cases. The ultimate goal is for humanoids to take over dangerous jobs from humans first, as well as monotonous, repetitive work. Overall, humanoid robots exist to create a better life for humans.
As powerful AI and multimodal large model emerge, humanoid robots are becoming game changers. They integrate cutting-edge AI, high-end manufacturing, and advanced materials, and are not just robots with arms and legs. They are complex machines that combine other machines, electrical engineering, sensors, and control systems. This allows them to not only take over complex tasks in factories, but also potentially revolutionize education, entertainment, and other service industries. As we've seen today, humanoid robotics are entering a new era. Experts predict that by 2030, these robots will enter a level of maturity that will allow them to integrate seamlessly into our lives, from factories to our homes. So, what do you expect from these robots? Will they become our best friends, personal assistants, or maybe even something more? Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure, these robots are looking more and more like human. And that is all for today's Threshold.
Well, that definitely sounds so interesting, Lisa. Thank you. Humanoid robotics are indeed entering a new era that I'm sure we're all looking forward to. But that's all for Threshold in China. Next up is the Thinkers Forum. Here, you'd hear from excerpts from all walks of life as they share with us their ideas and perspectives on the tailored topics for discussion. Let's begin with the conversation on the growing importance of multipolarity, with a focus on the speech delivered by the director of the China Institute at the Fudan University, Professor Zhang Weiwei, during the Multi-Polarity Forum.
It's a great honor to speak at this Multipolarity Forum. And why multipolarity is so important? I think because its opposite, unipolarity, is immoral, unjust, and outdated. Under this unipolarity, virtually everything, from dollars to trade, to computer chips, to other technologies, to climate change, you name it, all can be weaponized. And sanctions, missiles, and color revolutions are the norms and used routinely at will, causing wars, deaths, havocs, and untold human sufferings for millions upon millions of the people. And this order has to be changed and will be changed. And with the rise of China, Russia, the expanding BRICS, and other members of the Global South and the Global East, a multipolar world order is emerging fast. In the case of China, with 7 decades of socialist construction, China has become, for the first time in human history, the world's largest economy by purchasing power parity since 2014, so exactly 1 decade. Yeah. It has become the largest industrial power, manufacturing power, and trading nation, with the world's largest consumer market. At a speed of accomplishing almost 1 industrial revolution every decade since the early 1980s, China now is at the forefrontier of the 4th industrial revolution with big data, AI, and quantum technologies, etc. And now China is the only country capable of providing goods, services, and experience from all the 4 industrial revolutions to the whole world. All this has changed China forever and changed the global landscape forever. It is in this context China launched the Belt and Road Initiative 11 years ago. Now, with over 150 countries participating in thousands of projects based on the Chinese idea of discussing together, building together, and benefiting together. And this is a very advanced idea for human society and for the new multipolar world order. And BRI has now become the largest common good and platform for international cooperation in human history. Indeed, this is laying a very good foundation for the emerging new world order. As a full-fledged independent pole, China is also a civilizational state with full sovereignty, powerful defense capability, immense economic, technological, and cultural and intellectual power. We believe in the motto of unite and prosper, rather than the Western model of divide and rule. We reject that categorically. We embrace a shared future for mankind. As contrast to America's, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. Likewise, despite some controversies over the Ukraine conflict, Russia's determined objective and resolve to change the unipolar world order is widely appreciated and supported by the world majority. As a result, yes, it's true, Russia is isolated by the West, but the West is isolated by the West. That's important. And this fact alone shows Russia is also a full-fledged independent pole with full sovereignty, powerful military might, economic weight, cultural and intellectual strength of a civilizational state. Many new poles have emerged, not only China and Russia, but also India, Brazil, Iran, Turkey, and others, plus the expanding members of the BRICS and the Global South and East. As they may have internal differences among themselves, yet all these poles, all these countries share one common objective for establishing a multipolar world order based on peace, equality, justice, development, and common prosperity. Many of them also consider themselves as civilizational states or civilizational communities. If the United States unipolarity is underpinned by its deep state, which has done so much harm to the world at large, civilizational states are known for their deep cultures and deep peoples. They all cherish their own moral standards and civilizational roots and reject categorically the Western moral lecturing or imposition of its will on them. EU Foreign Policy Chief Mr. Borrell admitted not long ago that almost everyone in the non-Western world thinks now that there are credible alternatives to the West, not only economically, but also technologically, militarily, and ideologically. I think this is true. And with immense material weight or hard power and enormous intellectual power or soft power on the part of the world majority, this shift towards a multipolar world order has become an irresistible trend of history. Let's celebrate this. And promote it for a better and more humane world to come. And finally, let me express my sincere thanks on behalf of all the Chinese participants and other participants as well, for our host, Russian host, and for holding this grand forum, and for your gracious hospitality. We wish the forum a great success. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And that's all for the Thinkers Forum. Up next is Overlap, an exclusive program produced by the China Academy. In today's episode, Kris Yang discusses the Israeli occupation of Palestine with the spokesperson of the worldwide Haredi Anti-Zionist group, known as Naeturi Karta, Rabbi Yisroel Dovid Weiss, who strongly believes that the existence of Israel is antithetical to Judaism. Stay with us.
Thank you, Rabbi Weiss, for agreeing to speak to us, and through us to many people in China who are keen to learn more about the Israel-Palestine issue. The war in Gaza has raged on for more than 4 months, and I want to give our audience a little fresh context before we start our discussion today. So, as of now, it's been confirmed that 30,000 Palestinians are dead, and 70,000 are injured. And the number will likely to continue to rise because many more are still buried in the rubbles. And almost everybody is displaced, is starving, and people are eating animal fodder to survive. And chances are they may not be able to survive because it's estimated that a quarter of the 2 million Gazans will die within a year if the war doesn't stop. Yet, on February 20th, the US vetoed for the third time another United Nations Security Council resolution on ceasefire in Gaza, which shows how forceful it is in terms of backing Israel's war efforts against Hamas, even if it means huge loss of civilian lives. And therefore we have today's conversation with very honorable Rabbi Weiss. And Rabbi Weiss, you are a man of many hats, well, figuratively speaking. You are a Jewish person. You are a respected teacher of Judaism. You are an American citizen. And of course, you are an anti-war activist, which means you are against a war that was waged in the name of your people by a state that was formed to protect people of your faith, which is a violently persecuted religious minority during the Holocaust and historical pogroms. And it's now supported by the country you are born and raised in. But you are against it all. Why?
It's in your question is a large part of the answer. because you said I'm a man of many hats. And that is exactly what Zionism wants to do, to confuse, to befuddle the world, to silence the world, because they will not understand the depth, the core Zionism, which is the ideology behind the state of Israel. They call it the Zionist, it is the Zionist state of Israel. Their ideology is a transformation to nationalism. It is nationalism. It is a concept of a material concept to concentrate the Jewish people in one area, have a state of sovereignty that they will rule. This is antithetical, is contradictory to Judaism. It's a movement that started around 130, 150 years ago, this movement. And the idea was created by Jews who detested the religion. They were non-religious. 2,000 years ago, that's a period of 1,000 years after Judaism started. 2,000 years ago, the temple was destroyed. We were sent into exile, and we were expressly warned by King Solomon, the one who built the temple, prior in a prophecy. And he told us clearly, if we are sent into exile, we are put under oath by God. Do not attempt to return en masse. One oath. Don't return in large numbers. Secondly, do not rebel against any nations. You have to be loyal citizens. A Chinese Jewish citizen has to be loyal to the government. A United States citizen, as I am, have to be loyal to the government, to the country we're residing in, and so on. And thirdly, not to make any attempt to end exile. So there's three oaths. Don't return, because God foresaw there'll be people who will be impatient that want to return. Don't rebel against nations. Don't attempt to leave exile, because it's a godly decreed exile, as the prophets, all these prophets, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, they all warned the Jews, but in this period of time that they were in the Holy Land, that they're not on that high level required to be in the garden of God, this holy, what we call the Holy Land. So we will be driven, and we were driven from it. It culminated in the destruction of the temple. And once we were in exile, for 2,000 years, we are in exile, and we went through many hardships, many murders, mass murders of Jews, Inquisition, where they tried to force the Jews to convert to Christianity, was the Crusades that went around mass murdering Jews on the way to Jerusalem and then banishing Jews. In all that time, there were always periods where Jews had the capability of reestablishing. There was rich communities. They could have bought a piece of land somewhere in the world. We didn't. Why didn't we? Because it's expressly forbidden. We are in exile because God, the Almighty, the one whose world it is, told us we are not to return. We should be patient. God has compassion. When the time will come, the Almighty, with his compassion, with his awesome power, will make a metaphysical change in the world where all humanity will recognize one God. Then we will return with the will of all humanity. That's how we believe. That's the narrative of Judaism. So when Zionism comes along, first of all, it's rooted in blasphemy. These were heretics. They didn't believe in God. They didn't, or some of them maybe believed, but they didn't practice as a whole. And they come along and they say, oh, we decided we have to have our own country. So the Jewish people, all the rabbis basically around the world said, hey, what are you guys doing? It's forbidden. And then on top of that, in order to create this state, they had to oppress and reject all the inhabitants of the land, which was mostly the Muslims, were the largest community living there. Over 500 villages they eradicated. On just one more point on top of that, the Muslim countries throughout this history of 1,000 years, over 1,000 years that Islam exists, with 3,000 years, but Islam exists over 3,000 years, they embraced the Jews while we were being harassed and murdered by the Inquisition and the Crusades. The Muslim countries took the Jews and embraced them, and we flourished in the countries with a distinctly different religion. We believe in one God, both of us, but we have a different religion. And yet, still in all, we flourished in their communities without any human rights groups to protect. So now Zionism comes. They decided for their practical purposes to make their state in Palestine, and they have an impediment. Something's stopping them because the Muslims don't want to be occupied. So they start telling the world, hey, first of all, it's just nomads. It's a land without a people. That was their mantra. It's an empty land. And in those days, it was before smartphones. It was before all the modern technology. So people had a few basic ways of getting their information from a few media sources. And these media sources just repeated the narrative of Zionists, and they said, "Oh, and the other people that you're finding that keep on fighting with the Jewish people, they're why? Well, they're anti-Semites. They hate the Jews." These were the people who took the Jews in, and we were able to live with them in the same courtyards. And the people, 75 years isn't that long of a time. You have older people who remember, Muslims and Jews. Each one can tell the anecdotes of how we lived together. All these countries, the Jewish communities lived and flourished. And they have laws that, even though, for instance, I'll give an example, you're not allowed to consume alcohol. They have laws that permits the Jews are allowed to use alcohol, even though it's sold by them. Unholy, we can say whatever you would like. So because they respect the Jewish people and the Jewish religion, clearly. So now that Zionism comes along, and in order to justify what they're doing and to explain to the world that the people who are opposing them, people start asking questions. What's going on there in the Holy Land? So they say, oh, they're just anti-Semites. They're like the Nazis. They're there. So they use the concept of anti-Semitism and vilifying innocent people that just don't want to be occupied. So that's another part of our religion. In our religion, we're required to appreciate and show gratitude to anything that was done good to us. That's part of the religion, to emulate God in godliness and in kindness. And here, to create and solidify their occupation, they use anti-Semitism and attacks, vilifying the people of Palestine, till that we culminated to October 7th, where after October 7th, what happened? That they declared that they're going to wipe out Gaza, that they're varmin, that you can just simply wipe them out. Okay, they say they mean Hamas, but to do that, they've killed, tens of thousands of children. Why is this able to be done? Because they've had the narrative in their hands, and they tell people that what they're doing is justified because the opposition to their occupation is a religious concept. It's Muslims against Jews who hate Jews, and therefore the world doesn't want to accept that. That's why you think I have two hats, that we're anti-war, that we're there's Judaism and Zionism and the support of Israel as two separate issues. No, it's one basic religious thing. I'm standing up for my religion of Judaism, which tells us that the world is run by God, we have to emulate God and follow his laws. That means that we are forbidden to occupy people, to kill and steal from them. We are to show kindness and gratefulness to them. And therefore, we are opposing everything what Zionism is doing that is justified by using the religion. They masquerade in my religion. So it's all basic religious concept. We don't have politics and religion by us. It's one thing. We have been demonstrating, beaten, trampled by horses, cars, and simply because we're voicing our opposition to this Zionist occupation, we will never accept the right of the existence of the state of Israel. This is unacceptable because it's not our religion. They're using our religion, and therefore we're crying and hurting with the people of Gaza now.
And I think you have largely answered a question that I was about to ask, because that was such an important question. I think it's the core of the issue, which is what makes up Jewishness. What does it mean to be a Jewish person? Because nowadays you see a lot of information online that tells you different answers, such as whether it's a religious, united by common faith, or whether it's ethno-national identity, tracing through matrilineal lineage, or whether it's culture, like you shared holidays, share some customs, and you eat kosher food. Different answers, but I think your answer is unmistakably just religion. But my question then to you is this: are secular Jews not Jews? Because if they are not Jews, if you discount them as Jews, then the state of Israel, because Israel was born in a secular movement for national self-determination, they should not be viewed as the national home, as in the Balfour Declaration suggests, for the Jewish people. Because the Jewish people belong to a community of faith. And doing so would be turning the people away from the religion that validates their identity, thereby nullifying their Jewishness. Is my understanding correct?
I love your questions. I must tell you, sometimes people don't know how to articulate or to bring forward the issues So your questions are coming to the core of these issues. It's very interesting. This is a little hard to understand, but it's like this. We made a covenant with God 3,000 years ago to uphold the Torah. That is what Judaism is. It's a religion. Anybody from the world who decides if anybody wants to become Jewish, they simply can convert. And the 7 commandments, it's called the 7 commandments of Noah. Again, that is one God, and not to worship idols, not kill, not steal, not to commit adultery, and to have a court system in every country, that they should have a court system that shouldn't be without rule, and not eat from an animal before it's dead, before it's still shaking. So there's 7 commandments of Noah. So we believe that you don't have to be Jewish to serve God. And if somebody's going to convert to Judaism, they may find it too hard and tedious, and they may stop practicing. And once somebody converts to Judaism, then he's considered attached to God. And anytime, he can't say, I changed my mind. It's no refunds. So what happens is that then we created a sinner, like a treadmill. You buy a treadmill, you can do exercise. A month later, it starts collecting dust. So if somebody's going to convert to Judaism, and then he decides later he doesn't practice, so we created a sinner, because every time he doesn't keep the Sabbath. So therefore, we discourage people from becoming Jewish. But if somebody did go through with the conversion, he became Jewish, he's a full Jew, just like anybody who's born from a Jewish. But you mentioned the other concept of Judaism. The other issue of Judaism is that anybody who was born from a Jewish mother is Jewish, and he has to, again, just like if he converted, he's required to uphold the Torah. Now, if he's not upholding the Torah, a secular Jew, he has this connection. He's still a Jew, and he must uphold the Torah. But he's cut in a certain manner. He's cut off from Judaism, that we will not include him in, when we have a requirement of having 10 people to say prayers, we will not consider him one of the 10 people. The United Nations was created for one purpose: to stop the millions of people dying in a war unnecessarily. One of the first things they did was ratify the creation of the State of Israel. In a country where the majority is Muslim, the second is Christian, and the third populace was Jews, and they're coming along and they're ratifying that it should be called the State of Israel. Logically, any person with the common sense will understand that is calling for bloodshed, because you're telling the majority of people you have to be under a rule of a minority religion there. Isn't that logical? In October 7th, first of all, why did they get murdered? Why did this bloodshed happen? It's a movement that just moved in from Europe. It's an insult to common sense, to basic logic, that they should listen and buy the stupid logic of Israel. We think there's a member of Hamas in a schoolyard with 1,000 students. Bang, they're going to throw down a bomb. No matter how the world, it's against. And what's going to happen to the families of these 1,000 people, the 1,000 students were killed? They're going to have such a hate for who? For the Jews. Is this logical? Is this the way to bring peace? And the world buys the narrative. They make the people of Palestine like vermin. They make them like animals, like cockroaches. It's an insult to basic common sense. Let us save the people of Palestine and Gaza. Immediately a ceasefire. Immediately an end of this occupation that brings bloodshed, that creates anti-Semitism, that creates hate and divide in the world. And let's have that world peace, the United Nations, that should be united in peace.
I wanted to ask you a question now. I think it's utterly stupid, because I wanted to ask you if, hypothetically speaking, the Messiah is to come tomorrow, would the state of Israel be justified, and would there be a heavenly kingdom for the Jewish people? Would that be an exclusive Jewish state to fulfill God's exclusive promise?
Not only that, we believe that things that were done in sin is unacceptable. The state of Israel was built on labor on the Sabbath, when you're not allowed to. We believe that this will disappear. I don't know how. We don't know what's going to be then, but who knows? We pray to God constantly with his compassion that he should bring a speedy and peaceful dismantlement of the state. This state won't exist. It says in the Torah, this state cannot exist because it's not Jewish. It's a rebellion against God.
Right. But then
it'll be a community, but like you say, it will be a community of people. We will be all serving God, and it won't be exclusively Jewish people there. we believe the nations will be bringing sacrifices in like in the old time that they'll bring to serve God in the temple. From all nations will be bringing. So it won't be exclusively Jewish people coming to bring to the temple and serving God. That's to better the words.
Right. So I think if I understand you right, you're essentially saying that this concept of returning, the ingathering of exile, this returning to Israel is not right, because Jews should continue to live in exile or continue to live among the Gentile nations like the Ashkenazim in Europe, ideally Sephardim in Hispanic world, and some people in Asia. Stay where you are and coexist and peacefully and to live with other people of other faiths, just like the old issue in Ottoman Syria, like they did with the Muslim and Christian community.
And being loyal citizens as required.
Then be loyal citizens. But okay, but I think that was a pre-modern phenomenon when the world wasn't thoroughly divided by nationalism. You see, classical empires, whether it's Persia, whether it's Arabs or Mongols or even Ottoman Turks, they could be tolerant toward religious ideologies. But okay, nation states are defined by clear boundaries that mark different national identities. It's us versus them. And that was precisely why the Jews found it unbearable to live in Europe, where nationalism was born, after they had endured many centuries, right, in Europe previously. That's when people like Theodor Herzl became driven by this relentless desire to form a nation state, the Judenstaat, just like everybody else did, like for Olympic team, whatever, as a solution to rampant anti-Semitism. But even before Herzl, you had people like the socialist Marx's friend Moritz Hess. These people were alienated from religion, arguing for a Jewish nationhood. And that is a fundamental shift of the cornerstone of the Jewish identity, was initiated by members of the Jewish community within, in a sense. So how should we take this part of the Jewish experience into account? Those who have lost faith in religion and perhaps in Enlightenment values, those who have become cynical and even nihilistic, those who only trust in their own survival instinct, should they be rejected and disowned as Jews, as a religious community?
Yeah, well, again, it's not like, we sit down and we make a discussion and a decision of what we want to do with these people. The Torah tells us we have a covenant with God. If one does not uphold the covenant, he's disengaging himself from God. He is with his hands pushing himself away, and he's not that we're pushing him away. He is disconnecting himself from God. He's estranging himself, and God says it's a sin. And there's sins that are considered more cardinal. There are blasphemy and heresy and rejecting God is from the worst issues. So obviously these people are totally estranging themselves, and they're obviously not the Jewish religion. What they're doing as individuals, they're sinning. And like I said, we're not condoning it, but don't try to drag into the mire, don't try to drag into the mud Judaism along with you, right? So we say it's only the works of Satan that makes these people like leaders in a movement. You don't want the religion. So then he turns around and tries to transform the religion into something else, a nationalism, or you say something like the world. But that's not what it is. Judaism is it's a clear concept. So how could you? It doesn't make sense what they're doing. I mean, they suffered a lot, many people, so they're hurt, confused, and they're they don't know what to do, and they're leaderless a lot of times. So they follow along with they're grasping at straws or whatever it may you want to call it. They suffered so much, and a lot of times they're orphans and children. So here's a movement that promises them monetary grace, succor, and safety, and this and that. So they grab to it, and they come to it, they're attracted to it, gravitate to it. But that's just not the Judaism. That's not this covenant we made with God. Now, just as you mentioned, Theodor Herzl, as I mentioned, the traditional Torah opposition Zionists. So we have this quote of Theodor Herzl. He said, the way to solve the problem of anti-Semitism, in his diary he wrote, the way to solve the problem of anti-Semitism is, I'll let you finish it. You would think it means to make a state, right? or something, right? That's what. No. The way to solve anti-Semitism is to speak to the head priest of Vienna, to get an appointment with the Pope, to make a mass conversion.
Conversion to Catholic.
Yeah, and it should be done on Sunday in the middle of the day with music and pride. We are the last generation that held on to the faith of our forefathers. The conversion was St. Stephen's Cathedral. And you're talking about saving the Jews. He said who was the first president of the state of Israel? Chaim Weizmann. He was the one who was pivotal in the creation of the state, as you most probably well know. He was the one, he was a scientist, helped Britain get a certain thing, and they wanted to promise him gunpowder, something, and they promised him reward. They wanted to reward him. He said, I don't need anything personal. Help me create the state. This was written in many places in the Jewish press, which is a Zionist paper, October 18th, 02. They had convened the meeting of the Zionists in 1930s, and he said, and they saw Jews are being murdered, starting to be murdered. This terrible persecution of the Jews, and they saw the writing on the wall, what's happening here. So they had a meeting with the Zionists, which very powerful organizations. What could they do? So he said, Palestine, and in this meeting, Chaim Weizmann, one of the fathers of Zionism, said, Palestine cannot absorb the Jews of Europe. We want only the best of Jews, of Jewish youth to come to us. We want only the educated, means like doctor, to enter Palestine for the purpose of increasing its culture. The other Jews will have to stay where they are and face whatever fate awaits them. These millions of Jews are dust on the wheels of history and may have to be blown away. We don't want them pouring into Palestine. We don't want Tel Aviv to become another low-grade ghetto. Jews like me, they don't need, let them die. Millions of Jews to be dusted. These are the ones you're talking about because they have to have a safe haven, a nationalism and all this. They don't, this is the works of Satan, and they're simply dragging Jews into the mire. They have no reason. It's no reason. And Judaism is not that. You know, you can try to explain to me from, what does it say, the cows go back into the barn or whatever. You can try to explain why the world needs nationalism and it's convenient and so forth. But my religion is my religion. My religion is, we died for thousands of years, and nothing could change this. These Zionists are abusing my religion, stealing, hijacking the identity of our religion, desecrating God's name, committing crimes, and doing everything evil in the name of my religion. And we're not nationalism. We're forbidden to have nationalism. God foresaw that there will be such people who think they're brilliant, and they're going to come up with this brilliant solution to make us a home there. And God said, therefore, he warned us, don't attempt to return in mass. Don't attempt to make nationalism. Don't be impatient. God is compassionate. God is the one who created the world and gives reward and punishment. When God sees the time is right, in a blink of an eye, all the suffering will end. And like I said, the truth is, like you asked me, what will be at the end of time? We know it will be the revelation of God. All the nations will come together, and there will be like the kingdom of David and so forth, and the God will build a temple. You know, the exact nuances I don't know, but it will be a peaceful, and that's why the Muslims have no problem with us. So this is what we aspire to. But God foresaw the people like the Zionists and warned us, don't attempt to do this. It will only bring, God forbid, a nakba, catastrophe. We will never accept this, and we always will stand up against it. We're hurting. I wish the message could get to the people of Gaza, that they should know how much we're hurting, crying, and suffering, especially that it's being done in our name, this injustice.
This because there's very interesting thing is that in the United States, the Zionists will say you are anti-Semitic for criticizing the state of Israel. So those people are conflating anti-Semitic hatred toward Jews with anti-Zionist criticism towards the state of Israel. Those things are mixed up, and one could lead to the other. But the hushing criticism demanded by political correctness, I think, is more dangerous. Where should we draw the line?
They misrepresent Judaism, and they count on the ignorance of the masses of the world. They know that it says in the Bible, the children of Israel, the Holy Land, that God gave it to them. So they're using this concept and counting on people don't know the truth. But you have to know Judaism and be more a little knowledgeable to know that clearly we are forbidden since the destruction of the temple to have an own land. So they're counting on the ignorance and in a certain matter, like that not respecting the Jewish authority who are practicing the religion, who say we're forbidden to have this. And they're just saying in the Bible, Bible, it says God, so they know they get the evangelistic Christian support, and they're able to conflate and tell the world you're anti-Semitic if you're anti-Zionist. And not, and like you said, ironically, it brings more hate of Jews because people feel frustrated and they're afraid to open their mouths, they can't speak up, and they just get angry more at the Jews about what's happening. And it's nothing to do with Judaism. This is what we say, this will end. One day this definitely will end because God says it will. And so we just pray for the revelation of God, all humanity will serve in peace and harmony, and of course immediately the cessation of the killing in Gaza and a free Palestine. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Weiss. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Let's continue another day, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, it's been an exciting time coming your way with this week's edition of China Now. I want to say thank you on behalf of the entire production crew for watching. As usual, send in your comments, thoughts, feedback, and suggestions through the email provided below. I am Akiza Latifa. See you next week.